Well, hi there, everybody. Welcome back to the Confident Retirement Podcast, brought to you by LPF Advisors. I'm your host here, Chris Flaming. As always, joining me as my co-host and resident CFP, it's Colin. Hey, Colin.
Yes, sir.
He's going to help us break everything down today. Today, we're going into a topic that's common for retirees. It's a question we get a lot. We're going to talk about the concept of systematic withdrawals or systematic withdrawal strategies. Lots of big words there, but we're going to break it down and make it pretty simple. First, I want to go over our disclaimer. The information we provide is our opinion, not necessarily that of our firm or the platform. We provide general info only on the podcast, not any customized investment advice. Nothing should be construed as financial tax or legal advice. You should consult with your own professionals about your personal situation. Okay, I got that out of the way, Colin. Let's start with the basics. Define for us in simple terms, what is a systematic withdrawal or a systematic withdrawal strategy?
Yeah, no, this is one of my favorite topics because it means someone's retiring. They're making that big transition from working 20 to 30 years in their job, and now it's time to figure out how are we going to make this last. So a systematic withdrawal strategy is a plan for taking out our money in retirement accounts in a structured way. So the goal is to provide a steady income while minimizing the risk of running out of money too soon or outliving our money, essentially. So it takes into account factors like spending needs, tax implications, market performance, but really making sure we have a strategy to make that money last.
Okay, so kind of in a simple way, it's giving time and the necessary importance of thinking about how we want to take the money out after we've accumulated it. Now we need to change to distributing it and receiving it, and it's giving it the importance that it needs in order to come up with a plan for that, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. It's kind of like a roadmap maybe on how to spend your savings that you spend so long accumulating. So why is it so important then to have a systematic withdrawal strategy?
Yeah, so without a strategy, retirees might withdraw too much during good times, leaving them short during market downturns, or they might spend too conservatively, sacrificing their quality of life unnecessarily. You just spent 30 years working for a company with a paycheck coming in, and now we have to spend down on that savings that we worked so hard to put away. So it's a shift in mindset, but a good withdrawal plan balances these risks and ensures that your money lasts as long as you need it.
Okay, I mean that makes a lot of sense. So maybe you could walk us through some of the popular withdrawal strategies. There's all kinds of approaches to this. There's all a bunch of different camps on why some people think one is better than the other. We have kind of our opinion on this, which we're not going to state here, but we'll just go through some of the common ones. So take us through those.
Yeah, we could talk about withdrawal strategies all day long, but the most common that we see will be the 4% rule, which a lot of people have heard of, the bucket strategy, and dynamic withdrawals. So to start with the 4% rule, this is a simple method where you would draw 4% of your portfolio in the first year of retirement and then adjust that amount each year for inflation. It's easy to follow, but it doesn't account for market volatility or personal spending changes at all. So
Yeah,
the
and with that one, it's kind of more of a rule of thumb. So we don't want to insinuate if the rule ensures anything that you won't run out because things can happen. But there was some research done on this, some pretty famous research. They were trying to figure out a withdrawal percentage that you could stick with, as Colin mentioned, and have a high chance of not running out. That's what we're referring to here. But like he said, it doesn't deal with volatility or changes in your spending. So there's some other ones. Take us through those two.
Yeah. So the second one's the bucket strategy. So this is an approach where you divide your assets into so-called buckets based on time horizons. So for example, short-term needs, those might be covered by cash and bonds, while long-term growth comes from stocks. It's a bit more complex and provides a little bit more flexibility and peace of mind, but definitely something you have to pay attention to for sure.
And we did a whole different podcast just on this bucket strategy and how it addresses the most common risks associated with retirement. So make sure if you haven't watched that one to flip over to our YouTube page or where you listen to your podcast, find that episode, and we go into that much more in depth.
The third and last one is the dynamic withdrawals, Chris. So the strategy adjusts withdrawals based on portfolio performance. For instance, you might reduce spending during market downturns, and you might increase it when the market's performing well. So it requires more monitoring and using guardrails, but it could help your money last longer.
Yes, and it also requires maybe taking less out in those leaner years. So you have to have kind of the flexibility to be able to do that in your budget for that dynamic withdrawal strategy to work. Okay, so those are good examples, some good explanation there. How do taxes factor in to these strategies? What do we need to consider there?
So taxes are a huge deal, specifically because they can be, or most likely will be, one of our biggest expenses in retirement. So different accounts like traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, and taxable accounts, they'll have different tax implications. For example, a traditional IRA, those withdrawals are taxed as ordinary income, while the Roth IRA withdrawals are tax-free if you meet the rules around surrounding it. A good strategy prioritizes which accounts to draw from and when, but often, aiming to minimize the lifetime tax liability overall.
Yeah, so we can come up with a methodology for why, if you want to get a certain income, where it should come from and what amounts to manage your tax situation if you've done some planning in advance with the type of accounts that you've used to accumulate the money. And that's a lot to consider. So, Colin, maybe how should someone decide which strategy is right for them? Which one of those 3 examples that we gave, if we were going to pick one, which one do you think, or how would someone go about picking the correct one?
It's not like a pair of shoes, or it's like a pair of shoes, not one size fits all. It depends on everyone's unique circumstance. So your income needs, portfolio size, risk tolerance, and tax situation. So working with a financial planner can help retirees create that customized plan. But the key is to stay flexible and revisit the strategy regularly to make sure you're adapting to life changes and market conditions.
Okay. So before we wrap up on this topic today, is there a piece of advice you'd give someone that's during retirement as it relates to our subject?
Start planning early. So don't underestimate the importance of having a withdrawal strategy. It's not just about having enough money saved, but knowing how to use it wisely. And don't hesitate to get professional help or get a second opinion. It can make a huge difference.
Yeah, and it's common for clients that we work with where we're talking about their withdrawal strategies well in advance of them retiring, 1 year, 2, 3, to come up with what we think is going to be the best plan on how they're going to do it based on these considerations that Colin mentioned. So there you have it, a roadmap, an explanation on systematic withdrawals, making your retirement savings hopefully last as long as you do. Just remember that a sound strategy is a cornerstone for successful retirement. And if you have any questions about this, other financial topics, feel free to reach out to us at lpfadvisors.com, or you can email us at info@lpfadvisors.com. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and share this episode if you found it helpful. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time. Until then, take care and be well. Thanks, Colin.
Thank you, Chris.
You've been listening to the Confident Retirement Podcast with Chris and Mark from LPF Advisors. For more information on them and retiring confidently, please visit lpfadvisors.com. If your ears are pleased and your mind is now at ease, do share the program with your friends and subscribe wherever podcasts are found.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.